I'm starting to notice that if I want people to play these games, I need to get a bit clickbaity with titles because otherwise nobody will see them. And to be honest, the title is not far off from reality, but one step at a time. I just beat what I consider to be one of the best video games I've ever played, and I can tell it became now one of my favorites of all time. And you know, when I use that term, I don't use it lightly. I really mean it. I know there's many games out there that I have given that title, but it's not something I use lightly. When I say it, I really mean it. So, which video game am I talking about now? Lost Judgment. Lost fucking Judgment, holy shit. So, if you recall, I made a quick shelf on the first Judgment game. Unsurprisingly, not many people saw it, but again, I have this theory that many people still don't recognize that Judgment is a branch of Yakuza, because Yakuza is the series that has the meme status, you know, and many people recognize it for. And now, more people think that the future is only like a dragon, you know, the RPG, and fine, this video game is also a favorite because holy shit, it's so fucking incredible. But it's so sad that Judgment doesn't get the same amount of love. But what I have seen, when people are when they play them, they're super passionate about them. And I think I'm an example about that. So, where do we start? Did you remember that with the first Judgment I said that I fucking love almost everything about it and I only had a few nitpicks? Well, Lost Judgment improvised on almost every single aspect, I wanna say. And even those that weren't better, I gotta say that they still didn't bother me, but I'll get to that later. So for example, if we start with the combat, you might recall me saying that, in general, I really enjoyed the combat. You know, you had two combat styles, and they were much better than what Kiryu offered in the Dragon Engine games. But my main complaint there is that one of the styles, Crane, that was about crowd control, it didn't get much love. Well, it was fixed. It was fixed. Now, I found myself using it more, and that's what I really like, because there were new upgrades, new moves, new mechanics, and that made me enjoy using Crane style as much as Tiger. Tiger as a style remained just as good, I gotta say. It was nerfed a bit, I noticed, but I think that was a totally okay change, because it didn't strip away everything that made Tiger great. There was still new great stuff that made the style more entertaining to use, but even if it was a little bit nerfed, I like that because it gave me more reason to swap styles. And then comes Snake. Did you remember, did you ever play Yakuza 4 Tanimura? That he had a very weird moveset where he had to parry enemies' attacks, and personally I liked it, but back then it was one of my least favorite ones. But with Lost Judgment, Snake style is basically the Tanimura moveset, but in the modern age, and super incredibly polished. Yeah, it focuses a lot on parrying enemy attacks. Your basic maneuvers are not as sharp as Crane, for example, but it's okay because you can parry attacks and remove enemy weapons, and oh my god, it was so satisfying to use, because the base moveset that you use to punch people, it was already incredibly fun, but it's the skills and the fact that you could swap into Snake at any time that made it so cool. And okay, before I get into the next part, then there's Boxer. That is a DLC one that I got thanks to a friend of mine. Thank you very much, man, because I know you will see this. And Boxing, I gotta say, that was my least favorite one, but it was still incredibly fun because it was really fast, and what I like the most about Lost Judgment is that you could swap with your style so fucking fast, and you could juggle enemies in the air. You could prevent them from ever touching the ground. And it was, I swear, it never got tiring to use. Again, I think that Boxing was my least favorite, but I still use it a lot. And that's what I want to commend Lost Judgment for. The combat in every single aspect, it's better. Because you really see the reason to use every single fighting style. I mean, when there were so many enemies, I found myself using Crane. And then, well, with the bosses, I will use, how do you call it, Tiger? But I will only use Tiger. For example, there was this skill that if you evade at the right time with Crane, your speed increases. And if you enhance that even more, you can transfer that speed to the next style. So you can have a fucking tiger hitting really fucking fast, but hitting really hard, but you're also now really fast. And here, that's the thing. Now with Boxer, when you hit your enemies after charging your attacks, you gain more attack power. So if you do that, you can also have a crane style that hits even harder than before. And you can transfer those buffs to Snake, and you can transfer the buffs of Snake to boxing, and so on and so on and so on. And that's what I like the most. The movesets are not just for one specific situation. I found myself in every battle using them constantly. And another thing I really like is that Lost Judgment brought back the bonuses from Yakuza 0. Because in that game, if you did specific things to the enemies, like defeating them with a specific style and so on, you win much more money. Lost Judgment brought that back, so it was an incredible incentive to keep swapping your styles, and oh my god, simply the combat was... It's the best. It's the best 3D beat 'em up I've ever played. Do you remember how much I've slurred Yakuza 0 for years for having 8 different fighting styles? Lost Judgment did it much better. I'm not kidding. I'm not fucking kidding. Even if in this game I used all the fighting styles, it was mostly because I wanted to. Lost Judgment really gave me the incentive to constantly swap between them, and honestly, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. Another improvement that was made where, well, this one is a bit weird, but I still enjoyed it. Do you remember how much I hated the trailing missions in the first Judgment game? Well, they're back. They're back. But to their credit, they do not drag as long, and thankfully, there are not as many as before. So, you know, baby steps. Still improvement. I gotta say that they're not as annoying as before because you get more options to beat them faster than possible. Another thing that had me mixed were stealth sections, and I get them in the context of the story, but they still felt a little unnecessary because I cannot say they were exactly immersive, super entertaining. They were fine, and luckily they didn't last for too long. There were a handful of them, but I didn't feel myself going on autopilot. As for side quests, again, everything fantastic. I got a ton of laughs. I was having so much fun. And dare I say that even in a few instances I almost cried. I think the biggest change about side quests is that you know how every Yakuza game has like the big, huge minigame that has a story on its own, like Majima Construction, the clan creator from Yakuza 6, the cabaret clubs from Kiwami 2 and 0. And Lost Judgment now has many more of them because you're basically a counselor in a high school, and it's funny because you get to infiltrate many different school clubs and even a motorcycle gang. But I liked it. I gotta say, some minigames are clearly better than others. Oh, you should have seen me play the dancing minigame. I was going crazy with that. But there were others like the robotics club or the motorcycle minigames where honestly, the minigames weren't exactly entertaining. I feel there was too much grinding and maybe they overstayed their welcome a bit. But at the end, I still like them because the story of those minigames were genuinely great. I like that. They were genuinely great. And I'll be lying if I said that in some instances I wasn't crying because they hit me. They were super relatable, either because of things I live in high school, because they were heartwarming, or because some of the issues they deal with felt incredibly personal. So I gotta say, even though not all of those minigames were winners, I still gotta say that the school stories from the high school were really good. Next, there's the story. And okay, this is one of the few complaints I have. Personally, the story of Lost Judgment is great. But dare I say that I like the story of the first Judgment just a little bit more. Because, you see, in almost every Yakuza game, at least the protagonist has a really personal reason to do what they do. Judgment, the first one, was doing that incredibly well. You have a personal vendetta against Captain Hamura, but all of that expands into a bigger and crazier plot. And with Lost Judgment, it's basically you're hired for a job, alright, that's good, and then your coworker calls you, hey, I think this case I just worked on, something doesn't feel right. Can you help me with this? And Yagami's just like, okay, sure. But it feels like a side job that escalates into something massive. And that was one of the few issues with the story, that the first few chapters honestly feel very slow. Honestly. For as much as I was enjoying the gameplay and everything, the story at first wasn't exactly too immersive. It had its moments, some moments that again were incredibly touching and I really, really liked. But it took a while to get into that. And I found it difficult at first to find that connection because Yagami, again, it's just another job for him, you know? It didn't feel as personal as the first Judgment. But by the second half, another problem, everything happens too fast. But also, you know what? All of that happens so fast, it's marvelous. It's incredible. Let me tell you one thing without spoilers. Do you remember all my in almost every Yakuza video I have made by far, I always slurp Ryuji Goda as the best antagonist rival in the whole series? Lost Judgment has a character named Jin Kuwana, and I can tell you, he's one of the best greeting characters in the whole series. Like, oh my god, you should have seen me, because during the first half I was like, this guy, I'm not a big fan of him, he kinda sucks. And by the end of it I was like, I was crying. I was fucking crying, screaming, going apeshit because, oh my god, the story and the characters evolved in such a way that blew me away. Oh my god, no shit. That was all fantastic. And really, what else can I say? I like the English performance. I don't think I mentioned that on the previous video. I'm now playing the Yakuza games, the Ryuga Gotoku games in English, and the performances were immensely good. I found myself just enjoying every single line of dialogue because, you know, the voice actors are not just professional, they enjoy what they do. And yeah, I mean, the presentation was phenomenal, the graphics were incredible. I think the only issue is that since I'm playing on a Generation 1 PlayStation 4, long loading screens, but I didn't mind. I did not mind at all. I enjoyed every single thing about this game. The gameplay, the content, the music, the presentation, and I spent maybe 55 hours on it, I think, and I enjoyed every single thing about it, because even the lowest points, like the slow story or some school stories whose minigames weren't exactly good, at the end of it, I found myself saying it was worth it. Just for the payoff, it was worth all the time I invested on this game. Holy shit. And okay, just gonna wanna clarify. I don't want people to believe now that because this is now my favorite Ryuga Gotoku game alongside Yakuza Like a Dragon, because, you know, that's an RPG. I still don't want you to think that I hate Yakuza 0 now, because no, I will forever praise everything about this game, but Lost Judgment is something else. Is something completely different. I still gotta say, these are my 3 tops. The 3 top Ryuga Gotoku games, because, oh my god, there's a reason I love this series as much as I do, and I want more people to get into them. It's easier for them to get them into the Yakuza games because, again, they have the meme status. But for Judgment, oh my god, I really, really want more people to play this. It's an issue because they're not on PC because of some petty shit. But if you can get the opportunity, play this too. Naturally, I'm gonna tell you, play Judgment 1 first, and then move to Lost Judgment, because it's incredible to get related to all the new characters, concepts, gameplay, but it's amazing how this one doesn't just deliver an incredibly great story, but also how it evolves in gameplay. That's another thing I have to praise before I leave. There was so much content, like 55 hours, and I only did like 50% of the content the game has to offer, and normally that will make you feel that the game is bloated, but I was never tired of it. On the contrary, when I got to the point where it says final chapter, I was like, I don't want this to end. I don't want this to end. It seriously was a game that I enjoyed everything and every single second about it. And just before I leave, these 2 copies were a gift from my friend Santos. He made a very good donation to Twitch and the channel, And thanks to the donation, he told me, get these games. That's all I ask you to do with that money. Get these two fantastic games. You don't even have to do a video about them. You don't even have to stream them. Just play them and let me know what you think. And I just want to say, thank you, Santos. These games, well, I think I already expressed everything I had to say about them. So, yeah, now I am excited to move on to the Kaito Files, the DLC that Santos also donated. There will be more streaming about this. Before I leave, that's another thing. I think this game is also more special to me because almost everything about it, I stream it on my Twitch, and I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that was one of the best games I've streamed because of all the people, all the excitement. You know, I love this game so much that I went so crazy that I did a backflip in front of the audience. Anyway, I'll show you that, so take care and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone! お前らのせいだ、お前らのせいだ。ああ